So my name's Ann Farrell, and I am formerly and still with Farrelli's Wood Fire Pizza. And I don't know if any of you today have heard Clayton talk, or both he and I did seminars on Sunday, Monday. So Farrelli's, we sometimes have a presence, and what you'll hear from me today is what you'll hear from all of us is a message about culture, and that's the way to connect with employees. So I've been in the business for 38 years. My dad opened up his first restaurant in about 82. I was 14 years old, and he had me start where we start most people, which is in the dish pit, washing dishes, then prepping, and taught me how to mop the floor and clean the bathrooms. And then I got to work my way up to the front of the house. Learned all the marketing, all the bookkeeping, all the inventory, and eventually started managing restaurants. I had 3 kids early. By the time I was 23, I was married, 3 kids. And then when they got to school age, I put myself through school and waited tables at a high-end restaurant and got this really excellent education in fine dining, in hospitality, while earning a degree in human health and behavior and East-West psychology kind of stuff. Then I knew that I loved people so much that, and that was, we were going to be growing our Farrelli's concept, which opened in 95. So 2003 to 5, I went to graduate school and earned a degree, a master's in leadership development and organizational development through the lens of systems thinking. Because I knew that we were going to grow Farrelli's and that we needed somebody who had that sort of OD lens. And my dad was like really into it. He basically read every book I read through grad school. And we were able to, together with my sister, my mom, build an awesome company. There's 9 stores, 9 Farrelli's. We also have an Irish pub and eatery, and we do about $20 million in sales. And we believe that we do that with mostly our healthy culture and excellent food. So I don't know how distracting this is with this crazy screen, but I don't want to waste your time and have you sitting here doing nothing. So we say that culture is like the air that you breathe. It's the shared values, the beliefs, and the behaviors that are characteristic of a particular social group. And the social group that we're talking about is the people that are in your business. So my question to all of you is, like, do you intentionally build your culture, or has your culture just happened? A lot of times with one store, the owner, the manager, they're the heart of it. And so the organizations do take on the personality of their leaders. So where you're passionate, that will all be really evident. Okay, so this is the crazy working family. All the bottom pictures, my 3 daughters and their husbands, they met at Farrelli's. We're all just crazy family that works together. So culture is the air that we breathe. It's so important, and it's important to be intentional about it. One of the lessons we learned the hard way was that after we had opened our first 2 stores, which really were Farrelli's because my dad and my sister, they ran them. But when we opened the 3rd, it was a little bit further away, and not as many people from the original stores transferred. And then we opened a 4th, and even less. And we opened a 5th, and like pretty much no one. And so our brand got totally diluted, and we had to go back to the basics, and we had to remember what was it that made us Farrelli's. And we picked my dad and Jackie's brains, and we had the leaders that were there from the original store, and we figured out, okay, it were these values. It was fun, it was responsibility, it was integrity, it was passion. And we named what those meant, and we went back into those stores, and we just completely overhauled in a very intentional way those fundamental beliefs that drove all of our behavior, and we were able to turn those stores around real quick. Less than a year, a lot of turnover because a lot of people didn't want that new level of accountability and that new level of pressure. But man, it made a difference. One of my goals was that we had restaurants that were safe for parents to have their kids have their first job there, and I think that we did that. So how do you build a culture? You be really out loud about your why. We have a compelling mission, and I'm wondering how many here in the room have a mission statement that really drives home with them, that is exciting for them to get out of bed. Anybody? Couple hands. So our mission is that we use our business systems, we create vibrant working families, and we nourish neighborhoods, not only with good food, but we become a big part of the neighborhoods we're a part of. I sit on the board for the Boys and Girls Club. We build playgrounds on our military base for families. We just really try to make sure that the people in our neighborhoods know how much we appreciate them so that they come in and appreciate us. So that's our mission statement. That's our why. How do we do that? We do that with people. And then what do? We do pizza. So being able to really know what you're all about, and that's called the Golden Circle. Simon Sinek wrote a book called Start With Why. It's a TED Talk that I would highly recommend. Just Google Simon Sinek TED Talk. Watch that when you get home, and it will blow your mind. It's so good, and it's very helpful. So to build an intentional culture, like I said, you want to define your values, your principles, your mission, and then that drives the behavior. You want to be really good about hiring only the best people, which means that you have to focus on hiring. And for a lot of us, for a long time, hiring was something that was reactive versus proactive. And we know that we want the best talent. We want to be an awesome place to work, and we do not want to be held hostage by our team members. So we recruit the best, and then we train them. We say training worthy of the best. Then you also need to have really good business systems. We say you want to keep honest people honest. So we have great POS systems. We've got great scheduling tools, just providing team members the tools and resources they need so that they can be successful. And then we set really good, clear expectations. Everybody in the store knows what their job is and how they contribute to the overall functioning of our business, and that they know that they're appreciated and they're valued. And then the last big step in creating a great culture is making sure you have effective leadership. Our company grows from within. I think most restaurants a lot of times grow from within. And so just because you're a technically good host or server or pizza cook doesn't mean that you're going to be a good manager or a good leader. And so those are skills that we really intentionally work on building, teaching them our systems, teaching them our language, teaching them really good communication skills, and then holding people accountable, lots of training and development. So we think that leadership and management is an art. So I'm just curious, raise of hands, how many in this room manage and supervise others? Okay, almost everybody. How many, show of hands, hate giving feedback, especially critical feedback? Less hands, that's good. All right, well, I hated giving critical feedback. Which is why I studied what I studied, so I'd learn how to get good at it, and then I'd learn how to build teams so I didn't have to give critical feedback. And then having someone, how many of you have someone working with you or for you that has the potential to be so much better if only, Just being able to bring out the potential. So that's kind of what this is all about. How do you connect with employees and bring the best out of people? So just like a little exercise to get us all like engaged and for this to be really real, I want you to bring to mind a top performer in your operation, and then think about what makes them exceptional. And then think about the last time you told them how much you appreciated them and what it was exactly that they did that helped you out, that made them exceptional. And so I'm curious if anybody would offer up some things that make their team member exceptional. Anyone? Yes? Patience with the customer. Okay, go ahead. Selflessness. Yep. Go ahead. Very reliable. Okay, so these are, and then go ahead. Vibrant and outgoing. Yes. Yeah, they can. A beam of light. Yeah, that's awesome. And you can hear a smile on the telephone. I saw your hand back there. They care about their job. Okay, and then I'm curious, have you told those people that are exceptional that they're exceptional? Yes. Yay. Good. Because a lot of times people think, oh, I'm just going to give the critical feedback, but have a harder time for some reason, don't give that positive feedback. And that appreciation and valuing people is so important. So now on the flip side, can you bring to mind a person who in some ways underperforms? And what are they not doing or doing that contributes to a weak performance? Have you told them? If yes, how did it go? And did performance improve? If you didn't tell them, why didn't you tell them? Does anybody have a person that they can think of that they just wish they could change one thing and have either have or have not given them the feedback? Only one? Yeah. So, I mean, the point of this is that I think a lot of times people are operating in a vacuum and they're not getting the feedback that they need to bring out the best in themselves. So I always like to have these conversations. I mean, we're all here together. We're all learning. I'm still learning. When I'm not up here, I'm out there paying attention to what's going on. I'm walking on the floor. And so, there's so much collective wisdom in this room. I thought when I was looking around earlier, you think about how many employees, if you added up all the employees we all have in this room, like our family's business has 450, so we have thousands of people whose lives we impact every day in this room. That's big. So what would you like to take away from today? And I'll take like maybe five or six big key takeaways. Like you signed up, you walked into this room because you were hoping to learn what? Knowledge, okay? And on anything in particular about connecting with employees? Just help. Yeah, the correct way. Okay, go ahead. So are you saying like the people that are doing a great job, how do you get them to influence the people who are not doing a great job? Okay. Yeah. How to motivate people who are not performing at a high level. Okay. Go ahead. Oh, yeah. How to help people understand that conflict is not a bad thing. Any other big burning motivating millennials? All right. Yeah, this whole thing is about that because that's basically our whole workforce right now. I think they're like 21 to 37 or something. We got to start worrying about the generation that's 18 to 22 now. I haven't heard all the details about them. Shift culture. Yeah. Okay. And then if there's anything that I don't talk about, so far all these things we are going to get through, but if there's anything I don't, I'm happy to answer questions after or this week while I'm here walking around, or you've got my email address and send me an email and I'd love to help. So the first thing, like this is just basics. You've got to have good job descriptions. Role clarity is the number one thing after not having outlined your why, your mission statement. Is the thing that throws teams off when people don't know who's supposed to be doing what. And then when you don't know who's supposed to be doing what, you have a really hard time holding people accountable to do those things that they don't know they're supposed to do. So you've got to create really good expectations and you've got to create really good standards so that you have something, leadership has something to hold people accountable. And so that you can hold yourself accountable. And then my favorite thing is peer pressure is the strongest form of influence so that your teams can hold each other accountable. This is one of my dad's favorite sayings here. People respect what you inspect, not what you expect. So if you tell people what you want them to do and you never follow through. For example, you make it clear on the first day of work that here's the uniform standard. You're going to come in, you're going to be pressed outfit and hair tied back and you're going to be clean and tidy, and then they come in their first day and their hair is like in a messy bun and they're wearing the wrong pants and you don't say anything to them. You've basically said it's okay to come dressed however you want. So what you permit, you promote. And so making sure that you've got really good job descriptions for every role and that people know what the expectation is. So when we do our job descriptions, We have a summary of what that job is. We have the reporting structure. So like, for example, the kitchen manager reports to the general manager, the dining room to the general manager. But then the servers don't report to the general manager. They report to the dining room server. So you don't want them hopping over and undermining the authority of the person who is their lead, who's writing their schedule. So you make the hierarchy really clear. You have leadership expectations. So what do we expect from leaders? We say that you lead people and you manage systems and processes. No person wants to be managed. We want to know that you believe in us, that we're empowered to do our job, and that you've provided us with the systems and tools. And when we're not doing our job right, lots of times it's because the system is broken. So it's, looking, maybe it's a bad person, but maybe it's a bad system. So being able to figure out the difference between those two. Management responsibilities. So writing schedules, labor, all of those things. What are those responsibilities? What are priorities? And for us, a really big thing is work-life balance. We don't want any of our managers or our people working more than 45 hours a week, because we want them to have good home lives and good relationships and not be married to work. And then we need to make sure this is not the most important thing. In fact, it's like 5 or 6 on the list, but compensation must be fair. As long as compensation is fair, being valued, appreciated, doing work that's meaningful, contributing to something bigger than themselves or bigger than the organization, that's what's important to millennials and to most of us. I wanted to share an example of how we pay our Heart of Team members. We call our Heart of Team our kitchen pizza masters, pizza makers, Heart of Team. We wanted to give that back a house. Sometimes doesn't sound as integral to the whole system as what it is. So to us, the kitchen is the heart of the whole operation. So they're called our Heart of Team. These are our hourlies, yeah. And we live in Washington State, so the minimum wage, this might be a little old, $11.50 still minimum wage? In Washington? Yeah, okay, yep. So, right, okay. It's getting so high. I got my dad sitting here. All right. So how we do that is we want our kitchen staff, our Heart of Team, to know how they can grow in our company, that it's not arbitrary. So we developed a system. We call it our hat system. When you come into our business, you are a white hat first. You're an apprentice, and we're going to teach you all the skills you need so that you can then be a pizza artisan. And as you gain in skill, you gain in compensation. And then the next step would be to be a pizza master, which is a red hat. So white hat, black hat, red hat. And then all of those technical skills are tied to a wage increase. We also have the softer skills are also 50% of that wage increase or more, actually, which is attitude, teamwork, professional conduct. Those things that are really important. We don't care how awesome of a cook you are. If you're a jerk, you're not going to go very far. And then, so for our apprentices, we want them to know so they have their own checklist. All right, I need to do this much throwing dough. I need to prep this many times. I need to master salads in this way. I need to master apps in this way. And they actually hold our kitchen managers accountable. My niece, Mary, just got her red hat, and boy, she has held her kitchen manager's feet to the fire. What do I have to do next to move up? I want to prove myself. And she got that red hat, and it was posted on social media, and she was so excited. So you've got the job descriptions. Everybody knows it's crystal clear. So we've got our working culture. We've got patterns of management for general managers and kitchen managers so that everybody knows what they're doing and how they're spending their time. A lot of times managers can't always be on the floor during peak business hours. They should be, but there's other times where they've got office stuff, writing schedules. And so we want the team members to know, like, they're still busy working for you to make sure you can be successful. We have set attainable goals for them. Everybody in our store has access to our controllable costs. So how much food, liquor, beer, wine, paper, and labor costs, because we're expecting them to be partners with us to help us manage those numbers. And so when Farrelli's wins, they win, and their bonus is tied into that. And that has been really successful. They're all our partners. I taught a class with our kitchen system director the last couple of days, and he married one of our regional managers, and they had their wedding in Hawaii. And 60 team members from our company, including all ownership and leadership, went to Maui and spent a week together celebrating their marriage. And you can only do that because you have people you trust running your operation. And we didn't skip a beat. It was awesome, and it was so fun. And I've talked to so many operators in the last few days who are just struggling, working 6 and 7 hours or 6 and 7 days a week, working 12, 14 hours a day because they can't get out of their stores. And, my hope for all of you is that you can take some of this stuff, apply it, and that will give you freedom. And your team members will be so appreciative because they'll know you count on them and you depend on them and that they've been empowered and they're growing and learning. And then you slingshot them out into the world when they're done working with you, and they're better, and they're going to be better owners and operators and, business people and all those things, the experience that our team members get. So as far as accountability goes, right? So now everybody knows what they're supposed to do, and they know what the expectations are. So it's all about either pursuing pleasure or avoiding pain. And for us, we always say we want our managers to feel good, or not good, but not horrible when they have to terminate somebody, that they can look themselves in the mirror and say, this person earned their termination. I gave them every opportunity to perform at a high level, and they weren't able to do it. And in the end, they just weren't a good fit for us. So we say that I talked a little bit about peer pressure for excellence. It's all about looking amazing, that there's no cell phones on shift, that we are all compliant with standards. And we talk about standards versus goals because a standard is something that happens 100% of the time. We don't shoot to weigh cheese 99% of the time, or when it's slow, we set a standard that we weigh cheese every time. We want consistency. We want our food costs to be under control. And so every time our standard is we weigh the cheese. We weigh the damn cheese. Actually, now we just fine-tuned our core values last year, and we added discipline as a core value. And that's kind of the phrase that sums it all up. It's like, we mean it. It's too expensive to do business now, and we need to be profitable so that we can keep all these young people working with us. Part of that pursuing pleasure is really rewarding high performers, saying thank you. And thank yous go so far. Preferred schedules and sections. And then we give them little bonuses. We take them on field trips. We get swag from our vendors. We give them gift cards. We have like Farrelli's fives with a picture of my dad at the $5. And we see people we call it catching people doing good. And we give them that $5 and they can get a beer after work, or, collect a bunch of them and buy their girlfriend some pizza, and they love it. And then, so avoiding pain, here's some of the things that we have. We have the progressive discipline, which is the verbal warning, written warning, maybe a suspension, hopefully not termination. We give Mike, our kitchen systems guy, my daughter, when she was 18, went to work for him, and she sometimes had a hard time getting to work on time. And if she was late, for every minute she was late, she had to pull a piece of gum off the bottom of the table. And, she wasn't late very many times, but he would and he made it fun, and it wasn't a demeaning thing. Just like the accountability thing and creating that peer pressure. You lose shifts if you don't perform at a good level. So that's our avoiding pain. We talk about communication, and we do a lot of training, especially for our leaders. Like I said, we grow from within, so our leaders sort of emerge. And I don't know how many of you have had where you promote somebody from a great server, a great cook into a leadership position, and they just fall apart. And maybe they chose to be a leader because they wanted to be a boss. And bosses don't work very well. Not today, not anymore. And so we want to make sure that we have people that our leaders are all about developing people. That's your core job. If you're a leader in our company, it's about growing people. So we give them skills because they don't come naturally unless you grew up in a home where communication and conflict wasn't, everybody was really good and politically correct in conflict and there was no yelling and screaming. I didn't learn that skill. So I had to work hard and go to school and figure out the dynamics of it. And this one little model here, it's called the Wallen Interpersonal Gap, is so awesome. And it really framed things nicely for me. So I thought I'd share it with you. And that is that I know what my intention is when I'm talking to you. I know what I mean to say, like, hey, it doesn't look like you have the right uniform on today. Your shoes are the wrong color. You're wearing yoga pants. And, my intention is just to give feedback on how this person looks. I know that what my intention is, but I have no idea what the impact is until I check to see what the impact is. And she knows what the impact is, but she doesn't know what my intention was unless she checks to see what my intention was. She could interpret that, wow, she cares about me and she cares about her business and she wants me to be in uniform. Or she could think, wow, she's power controlling and she's mean and she's picking on me. And why is she always picking on me? And until we both check in with each other to say, hey, what does that mean to you? We don't know. And that happens most of the time. We're missing. Instead of communicating like this, we're communicating like this. And so we talk about this interpersonal gap that happens all the time. It happens a lot on the line. A server is upset because their section is full and food is taking a really long time. And she goes up to the front and she totally snaps at the cook. And the cook is like, rah, like he's making up maybe a story that she thinks I'm lazy and I'm not working hard. And she thinks he doesn't care that I have, 25 guests out there that are staring daggers through my back and all of those things that happen. And so until you can help people really sit in the shoes of the other, these conflicts happen. So what we teach is how to cultivate genuine curiosity, to ask why, to see what the impact was, to ask questions like that. We teach people that, especially in a leadership position, it's more important to listen than it is to talk. To ask how your servers are doing, to ask what's going on, to ask them to give themselves a self-evaluation. They know where they're doing well. They know when they're falling short. And so if you start a conversation and you listen actively, and active listening looks like leaning forward. It looks like eye contact. It looks like paraphrasing them so they know that you heard them. And when you truly listen to somebody, you'll watch their shoulders go, oh, you heard me. And sometimes people need to vent or share what they're feeling. And once they've done that venting, then you can get to problem solving, and they're much more open to hearing what needs to happen to move forward. So listen, communicate your intended message and check for impact. I love the little, I don't know if everybody can see that, but it's like a little person. This is what I think, and this is what I say. And that's going on. So I'm always asking, what are you thinking? What's going on in your head right now? Another huge part of our culture is working really hard to eliminate triangulation and gossip in our culture. We want our place to be a very safe place to work, a place where you can come and just be who you are. And as long as you work hard and you do a good job, you're going to be accepted. And triangulation is cancer. And triangulation is when person A talks to person B about person C, talking about how lazy they are, they didn't do their side work, and talking about a person instead of to a person. And we just don't allow it. And we kind of culturally will do this if someone comes up to us and, are you triangulating? I know you're not triangulating. And if there's serious something going on, that needs to be handled, and they don't know how to elevate, they're not comfortable talking to that person face to face, and they're coming to me because they've got a problem, I'll ask them, do you want me to facilitate a conversation between you two? Or do you want to go, and I'll give you some tips on how to have a constructive conversation with that person. And they have 24 hours to deal with the problem. And if they haven't dealt with the problem, then it's going to be, they don't have a choice. Me and that person, the two of them are going to sit down and have a talk. because we can't have that conflict and that ugliness happening. It is a distraction to the work. It's a distraction to the guests. It's a distraction to the rest of the team. And so we work really hard on not having gossip and mean-spiritedness. My mom, my mom is, I think what she brought to our organization is a philosophy of kindness, that to treat each other with kindness is such a big deal. And so that is kind of why I think we've really grabbed on to no triangulation. This is a photo of my dad and our kitchen system director, Mike Rutledge, at a retreat we went on a few years ago. We were doing some strategic planning, and we set aside time so that each person at the retreat would get a one-on-one with each other person just to talk, just to get to know how things are going. And it's kind of rare how often people take like 20 minutes just to really touch base with each other, not talking about business, like business goals, about all the heady stuff, but talk about what is real for you right now in this business. Our saying is people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And again, it's all about building partnerships with your team members because they're the ones that are actually bringing the money and the profit to the bottom line for you. So feedback should never be a surprise. We're always coaching and giving feedback. If someone's doing a terrible job and they don't know they're doing a terrible job, that is just mean. If you don't have an opportunity to change. Critical feedback is given as close to real time as possible. An example I use would be like on the line, if somebody didn't weigh the cheese in that instant, you wouldn't wait till after shift to say, hey, I noticed that you weren't weighing the cheese. You would say it in the moment. Likewise, if you saw an excellent, most beautiful pizza go out, you'd say, oh my gosh, that looks amazing. High five. That you're constantly, we say that feedback should be nonstop and unemotional, and it's attached to behavior. It's not judgments. How often should you give general feedback? We say all the time. Every day you should be touching base and either saying good job or helping people figure out what it is they need to do to be living up to their best. And a formal evaluation, maybe once a year, maybe, we do coaching books and we do those once a quarter, and it's like a 15-minute conversation. I'll tell you about that in a minute. I got another slide on that. We say, tell the truth, take the time to do self-evaluations first. Sometimes when you have to have an uncomfortable or difficult conversation with somebody and you have to deliver a bunch of hard news to them about how they're underperforming, it can be really uncomfortable and very scary for the person who's on the chair opposite of you too. And normally when you start telling people what they're not doing right, they go to a place of just straight up defensiveness. And when you're defensive or you're in fear, you can't learn. Like the brain chemistry doesn't allow you to learn. So I always say self-evaluation first. Hey, Joe, I want to meet with you next Monday at 2:00. Here's a form. It's just a little quick self-evaluation. I want to know 3 things you think that are going awesome for you at Farrelli's and strengths that you bring to the company. I want to know 3 things you're working on or falling short on. And I want to know what your growth plan is. Like, where do you see yourself in the next 90 days to a year? What do you want to do? How can I better support you? And then he comes and sits down on Monday, and he almost always tells me everything that I would tell him. And so I don't have to tell him, oh, I'm glad you see those things too. What should we do to fix that? What can we do to fix your issue with timeliness? What can we do to fix, the problem that you have getting really upset on the line, which throws the whole team off? What's going on that's happening? So again, it's all about people know how they're doing, make it safe to tell the truth, be curious, ask questions, and problem solve. So I mentioned it a second ago, but that real-time feedback is the most powerful. So genuine and curious, positive, behaviorally specific, and both positive and negative. Nobody's totally terrible and nobody's totally 100% the most awesome ever. Here's that formal, informal feedback slide I was talking about. One of the easiest ways to do feedback and most powerful ways for you as an operator, especially if you're like the day-to-day operations person, is when your team members walk in the door, that you greet them, that you say, hi, how's it going? How's your day going? Welcome to work. Here's what's up today. How are you feeling? Check in with them. If they're carrying stuff from their personal life, help them like keep that outside and come in, and we're going to have a good day, and work's going to be fun. We're serving pizza to people who are here to have a good time. When they clock off, it's another opportunity to check in. How was the night? What went well? What didn't? What could we do better tomorrow? That these are just really quick ways so that people know you care and you appreciate them. This will build trust. It'll build their performance, I promise. It's going to build your sales, and it's going to build profitability. Oops. And then another big step is that we've talked about a little bit is appreciation, gratitude, and incentives. This picture up here last week, I think it was Friday, was Employee Appreciation Day. And Josh, the general manager of our Frederickson store, he wanted to make sure that his employees knew how much he appreciated them. So he bought them donuts and candy and all the crazy energy drinks that everybody likes so much. And Kat, one of our Red Hat Kitchen girls, she is an artist, and so she made this on a big, huge butcher paper, a picture of him, and this is actually what Josh looks like. He's very hipster with the beard and nice and quiet. He's kind of you never know what he's thinking. He's so quiet, and so it's kind of fun that he did this fun, crazy thing that was posted right when they all got into work. So they walked in, and it was, big happy appreciation day. But it's got to be genuine. A way that you can show that you appreciate your people is by offering them growth opportunities. People want to grow, and maybe you don't have room to grow hierarchically, but what other responsibilities can you give them? Do you have somebody who loves to garden? Can they plant pots in front of your house? Do you have an artist whose art you can put on the walls? Do you have somebody who really is into social marketing or social networking or media, and you're not? And you could hand that off to him or her. So allowing people opportunities to grow, learning field trips. This is like one of our best investments that Farrelli's makes is, we usually take bar leads once a year on some kind of fun trip to Napa. We usually have 30 kitchen managers, general managers, and our leadership team here at Pizza Expo. But this year we're going to take them on a couple other different trips. So they didn't come, and almost all of them have been here 2 or 3 times. And this is like a reason people want the job. Gift card trades. We go into all the other local restaurants and, hey, we'll give you $25 if you give us $25. So then we award people with gift cards. We have lots of distributors, and they have lots of fun things, and we save those up and hand those out. And then we have special appreciation events. So we do a huge Christmas party. This year we rented out a little, like one of those light parks, and went and had a big, huge outdoor party and did rides and walked the lights and fed everybody really good food. So this is the end of the slides, and I wanted to save enough room so that there was time to answer questions and hear like what you're thinking. But to summarize it, it's culture is everything. You want really clear roles and goals and responsibilities. You want to always tell the truth, and you want to appreciate people. And if you create a culture like this, you will, one, have connected with your employees. You will have high-performing employees and lots of them. And your only job is going to be, my dad always taught us, how do you inspire people? You eliminate all the people who aren't already inspired. So if you have people who aren't motivated working with you, either motivate them or transition them out. Go ahead.
Tell me a little bit about your hiring process, what you do when you have a position to fill. What do you bring them into a questionnaire and whatnot?
Yeah. We have, we do, our onboarding system is People Matters, and so we get I think it's Snag a Job or Indeed sends us applications, and it's a pretty good screening process. They do like a personality aptitude test, so you kind of see if they're going to be a fit for your culture, and you get to pick the questions, and then if flags come up, they actually tell you behaviorally specific questions to ask that person. We do it. Yeah, go ahead.
Is that online or is it?
It's all online. Yep. And so they shoot us an email. Hey, you got a good one. We try to do, and I always recommend that you make hiring a part of your weekly on your pattern of management. So every Wednesday from 2 to 4, you're doing open interviews. People know that they could come in and someone will talk to them so that you can connect a face to a name or, on a sheet of paper. And that's another one of those things that you can delegate to key team members, like, hey, can you do the screening today? And, then they're part of that hiring process and vested in the success of new people that are coming in. We do make sure that we do phone to do the basics. Do you have transportation? What's your availability? Can you lift 50 pounds? That kind of thing. And then it's at least two face-to-face interviews with two different people, because one, you want to see, do they come the second day looking nice and sharp and professional? And you also want to be observing, like, how do they treat the rest of the team? Were they polite to the host? Are they just kind of kissing up to you, or do they seem like they're genuinely good? We say we hire for character, not for talent. We can train skills. We can't teach a person how to be nice, how to have integrity. And so we have structured behaviorally specific questions aligned with our values. So, like, for example, we have a core value of growth. And the question is, what are your goals for the next 2 to 5 years? And if a person doesn't have any goals or hasn't thought about that question, that might indicate they're not into learning or that they're not thinking about their future. And sometimes that means maybe they have other habits that, I don't know. We really like people who are into growing. And then another one is integrity. And integrity to us is to do the right thing even when no one's watching. And so our interview question is, tell me about a time when doing the right thing wasn't the easy thing. And what did you learn about yourself through that process? And when people are answering questions like that, you get to know them and really connect with them. And then, the thing is, you spend, especially if you're working 45 hours a week in your restaurants, a lot of time with these people. You want them, my mom and dad would say, you want these to be people that you would want to have dinner with. If you don't want to have dinner with them, then you might not want them in your working family. So that's how we do hiring. Go ahead.
From a leadership standpoint, how do you get the team or the rest of the employees to buy into this whole culture change?
Well, I mean, we've been doing this for a long time, but I'll tell you what's hilarious. Autumn, she's running around. She's probably not in the room right now, but she came to work for us about 6 years ago, and now she's a regional manager and she manages our beverage program. And when she does, when we do our orientation for people, and because we've opened a few stores in the last few years, and we do a big orientation, like 30 people, and she always gets up there and says, when I first joined Farrelli's, I thought, what the heck is this vibrant working family thing? This sounds like a cult. This is like, I'm not going to be in these smiling weird pictures. And she's in every one of those smiling weird pictures, and she's a person organizing lots of the events now. And she'll say it's true, and she'll also say, "Man, I worked at Sumner, and I thought, no way can anything be as fun as this Sumner store." She goes, "And then I worked in Tacoma, and it was just as fun, and then I worked in DuPont, and it was just as fun." And so but you can't do it on accident. It's got to be very intentional, and it's core value driven. And so, like when we did the core values, we start our meetings off with, what's the mission statement? Everybody knows the mission statement. Okay, our core value is celebration. How have you celebrated this week? And then, someone will say, oh, we celebrated, so-and-so rang 2,000 and they hadn't had that high of a ring yet. So that's kind of how we do it. And we also, it is not a top-down thing. So for the hat system that I talked about, which was a huge culture shift, and that was spawned because, one, I wanted to elevate how the kitchen felt about themselves. I wanted to attract really good people, and I wanted peer pressure so that people would be motivated to do better and better and better. And 3, because we couldn't get our kitchen guys to wear their hats. And it was killing my dad. Every time he'd walk in, his head would want to explode. And he had little chef hats, and the kids were too cool and they didn't want to wear them. Well, I had worked in that fine dining, and they had a scarf system, and it was colored, and it was this elevated thing. I'm like, let's do that. And so I brought all the kitchen managers together. I brought Mike, our kitchen system guy, and I said, what could this look like? And they designed it, and I took notes. And then I implemented it, or they implemented it, and hats have never been a problem since then. They all wear their hats. They're all working to get their promotions, to get a little more money, to have bragging rights on how fast they can throw dough, or if they get to work the oven. And it's self-directed. It's not us, it's them. In fact, sometimes the hard part is they want to grow. And because we have a labor budget we need to keep, we don't always have space, to do the promotion, to do the growth. And that's when we're transferring them. Okay, we've got a spot in this other store if you want to grow. So he's asking about how do you help a team member who's going through a really hard time, like something with like a divorce or mental health issues. Well, we just invested in the EPA program, which is like a mental health thing. I can't remember. It's like $5 a month or something per employee. Every employee gets it, and they have a free hour or 3 hours of like mental health counseling per incident. So if you're going through a divorce, you could get counseling help, and then they help you plug into resources, and then if you have mental health and that's a separate issue, now you have 3 more sessions that you can get some help and you can get some support. One thing is, we have to be careful that we're not mental health workers. And so it's hard. Like we had a girl who was in abusive relationship, and she's bringing that to us and really struggling. It's like, well, I don't know what to do about that, but I know that you've got this resource. And me personally, I have a friend that runs the YWCA, and I can contact her and I can get resources, but I try not to do too much like therapy. And then if they're not performing up to standard and it's hindering the team, you really have to do what's in the best interest of your business system and your whole team, with lots of compassion and caring, and hold that spot for that person, so that they don't, go all the way, make everybody mad and burn bridges, and then it's bad. Go ahead. Quarterly coaching books. Yeah, it's kind of the one slide that I showed you where it's got, we want to know what 3 things are you doing great at, what 3 things are you struggling with, and then a growth plan. So it's just a way to really touch base. It's a binder that the general manager keeps. And actually the kitchen manager coaches his team or her team. The dining room manager coaches her team, the bar lead coaches that team, and the general manager coaches the kitchen manager, dining room manager, and bar lead. Yeah. Go ahead. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's a good question. Her question is, you've got a high-performing employee who is very frustrated with the low performance of other employees, and how do you help her be more realistic about her expectations of others? And I would say to try to help figure out a way to level everybody else up, and really listen to what her concerns are. Are the concerns, is it that people aren't doing their side work? Well, do you have side work lists? Like really talk to her, and then see what solutions she has. A lot of times people come to managers and they drop their big pile of problems, and we think it's our job to solve it. And it's really not our job to solve it. It's our job to partner with them to figure out really good solutions. And then they feel good because they're a part of the problem solving. And then, so it's all about us giving them, again, the tools and the resources, and maybe a system You know, I just worked with a pizzeria family in January, and that was actually one of the concerns was the server. And I was talking to her, and she had this amazing idea of that it was the one manager was supposed to check every server out. And she thought a better way to do that was that the person coming on checks the person going out, and then, you know, the next one off gets checked out. Anyway, it was like this staggered check off that each team member. So she was really looking at building a system of peer accountability, which is the most powerful form. And the owner was like, I said, hey, she's got a really good idea. Have you heard this idea? And she's like, no, what's the idea? So she told her the idea. I'm like, you never asked her for what her idea was. You just have been mad at her for, you know, complaining instead of empowering her to help solve the problem. And I said, after you spend some time talking to your employees, figuring out what their problems are, the faster you can implement a change that is productive, you earn trust and credibility like instantly. And then people are doing more and more, figuring out how they can help and how they can contribute. Does that make sense? Any other questions, thoughts, struggles? Go ahead. Yeah. Yeah. So she's wondering, how do you train people, or if she wanted to stop triangulation, she doesn't feel like she's necessarily qualified to mediate a conflict, that would be uncomfortable. She doesn't have that training. So where do you get that training? Depending on your state, but you could just Google communication skills and see what pops up. There's so many really good things online. Lots of different training. There's good books. There's a really good book. Well, this isn't necessarily on managing conflict, but a really good communication book is Radical Candor, about how to deliver feedback in a way so that people know you care about them personally, but you challenge them directly. Yeah, go ahead. Website? Oh, here's, and the PowerPoint is on my website, which is alignunifythrive.com, and then just hashtag connecting with employees. So, and if you have any additional questions or anything, just you can feel free to email me.